Trying to get by Benning. Darnell Nurse left it in the corner. Gets up center. Perry scores! Corey Perry!
Ilya able to shake away from Solani. It's given away to Solani. Around in front. Score! Teemu Solani with the steal.
And the fans want one. Score! Off the floor! On the board! Paul Kariya!
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Forever Mighty Post Game Show. It's Eddie, Jay, and Pat on the mics tonight. Wow, what a interesting game, boys. This started off on the wrong foot, as I feel we're coming into that what the Ducks used to do, where they just have a period where they just don't play hockey. We're used to talk about that stuff, right, guys?
Oh yeah, no, that's eerily familiar.
Hey, this is the first show of the season with the three of us.
Oh hi! I thought we did the first
nope.
one together.
The guy at the bottom of the screen was not here.
Oh yeah, Pat. He
Broke
didn't want to play.
Yeah, we had broke Pete Davidson on the debut game of the season. So.
They almost all did it.
Ed, can you tell everybody where you are?
I'm okay.
I
To be
don't-
fair, I'm in the same spot I have been for the first
To be
two
fair.
games of the season because I wasn't on the last show. It's the same spot. It's just really dark, so you can't really tell it's the same spot.
It looks like he's a kid trying to hide the fact that he's awake past his bedtime. That's what it looks like.
Everyone, shut up!
Yeah.
Mom will hear you.
Yeah, I am
So
without
good.
my desk right now,
Well-
so I am constantly moving to different areas of the house.
Desolate.
Gotta give a shout out to the people that come out to our shows this season so far. 4 games in, had a bunch of new people in chat, and like Eddie has said before, a lot of people subbing and gifting subs. So appreciate your guys' support. This game, though, I not a lot of times do I agree with the broadcast after in the post game, but they decided to say it felt like the first period that the Ducks were kind of just wondering what kind of game the Wild were going to play. Is it going to be tight checking? Is it going to be fast paced? And I was like, holy shit, like they're right. Like that's kind of what it felt like. They're just kind of standing around a lot in the first period. And unfortunately, the Ducks aren't able to recover completely in this game and go and take a loss here 3-2. But we did see some bright spots, right, guys?
Sure.
You don't. What? You're just gonna go right past the Cam Fowler scores. You're gonna go right past Nick Deslauriers scoring again.
I'll say, at moments, the fourth line looked great. Like they kind of look like what our first line should probably look like. And then I feel like a lot of times the third line looked like the way our second line probably should have looked. So it was a real confusing game, but it was almost, like I said, a little bit familiar. It started off so horrible and slow out of the gate. There was no step on the gas. Let's get after it. Let's receive their game, figure it out, and we'll come out the second period and hopefully we're a little bit better. And they weren't even that in the second period. I mean, they got a couple goals, but I mean, it just was very similar to last season. This is the first time where they kind of looked like they did last season a little bit, which is not the
They had
funnest
5
thing to
shots
watch.
in the third period. Like, the second period was great, and it honestly might have been one of their best periods of the entire season so far. We're only 4 games in, but the first period was probably the worst period they've had all season.
That's a fair assessment right there.
Yeah,
Second period
was great. Third period was it was bad, but it wasn't awful. Just the Ducks again can't generate any offense. 5 shots on goal, you concede early. It's not the worst goal to concede in terms of bad coverage or bad goaltending and Ryan Miller. It's just a regular goal, but they didn't generate any offense to really try and get back in the game. And then obviously the first period they were honestly lucky to get out of it down 1-0. Brodin hit the crossbar, Kaprizov hit the crossbar. Probably could have been 3 or 4-0 after the first period, other than Ryan Miller having a pretty solid game up until that point. But it's the same issues since game 1. Now game 4, the Ducks cannot generate any offense, at least consistently. The second period was really all where they got going, and now we've got 3 road goals from Maxime Comtois, 2 home goals from Nick Deslauriers, and 1 goal from Cam Fowler on the season. 6 goals in 4 games. It's not it's expected, but not a great look for the offense.
I mean, we got to be careful here because we could probably not even get to the point where we're going to talk about the game. We're just going to talk about all the bad things. And we've already had a show like that, Ed. We're not going to do that. I was actually, first I want to say I was pretty impressed with Ryan Miller's game tonight. Not a lot of times do I love goaltenders. I thought he played pretty well.
No, you do not.
I thought he played pretty well. I thought he faced a lot of really difficult shots, and he made the majority of those look pretty easy. Good to see him back in there. And, you know, what are you going to do? The breakaway didn't go his way in the first period. But, I mean, I think the rest of the game, I kind of felt like wow. I mean, I was saying it earlier on our Discord. It's kind of looks a little like Gibby. Like, this guy's making things look pretty good tonight. So I was pretty impressed with Ryan Miller's game. Bummer we didn't see Josh Manson tonight because I think it got rough enough to where he would have dropped the gloves. That was the only disappointing thing besides the loss that I was kind of bummed about.
I was kind of waiting for something like I mean the elite goal scorer that is Deslauriers right now. I mean that's fun and all. We need goals, so I don't care where it comes from. But at the same time, I kind of would rather see him get in there and maybe rough up somebody. There's just I don't think we really had a fight since the last game, and that really wasn't a fight, but it was enough to actually injure Manson that he's not been back since. And I feel the Ducks kind of needed that little bit of a emotion in that one. So, you know, for me, there's like two guys that are going to fight right now. It's like Deslauriers or Getzlaf, and you don't want Getzlaf doing it. And at this point, Deslauriers scoring goals, you probably don't want him fighting either. And so you kind of miss that Manson a little bit in that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know how long he's going to be out at this point. I think Eric Stevens put out a little bit of an update in the Athletic real-time feature on the Athletic app, where he said that Dallas Eakins made some comments and basically said that, you know, it looks like it might be a while for Josh Manson, but
he probably broke his hand, because I think he came in punched, and Greenwood even had like a mark after that. And other than that, I didn't see anything where it was like upper body. But I mean, he threw in a couple punches a little late in that one, the previous game. So I gotta assume it's probably hand related, a finger.
If he was
or
healthy
something.
in this game, he probably would have fought Greenway, because Greenway was mixing it up again with a few Ducks players.
Yeah, a bunch of those guys where it felt like not just Greenway, but I think Eriksson Ek was doing, you know, getting in there on that, and Bukestad again.
Big
All those
guys.
guys.
Like Greenway is like 6'6". I think Bukestad's 6'7". Eriksson Ek's like 6'3".
But those are like their only big guys, because like after that, it's like almost nobody is that high. Like they're big guys are the ones being
Fiala's
being dicks, and
Fiala's
they're
under
allowed
like
to be.
5'10". So is Parise is like 5'11". If they had Marco Rossi playing, he's like 5'8" if he was actually in the lineup. But
I think they just got Ian Cole. He's a bigger guy, I think, but at least a meaner guy.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they just picked up, right? Did they just get him? I forgot he was on the team until the broadcast tonight, honestly.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he got in that quick. Like, I guess everybody's quarantining in this, I don't want to call it a West Division bubble, but got traded yesterday. Now he's in the lineup today for Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't he your boy, too? You wanted him on Anaheim. Bad. You really like Ian Cole a lot. You must be bummed.
Well, you keep bringing this up, but this was literally like 2 or 3 seasons ago when Ian Cole was actually playing well with, I guess would have been Columbus at the time, or maybe that was before he went to Columbus.
I think it was. It was before he went to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, from Columbus to Pittsburgh.
Sure.
Pittsburgh was the team that got him at that deadline, I think. And, yep.
How many teams has this dude been on?
He's surprisingly, since I wanted him, he has not been good, so I'm glad he didn't come here.
Not enough teams until he comes here. That's pretty much what Ed's answer is going to be always.
Yeah,
I'm still waiting on Thomas Tatar.
It needs to be a one more.
Going to happen.
What did you guys think of the Fowler Hakanpää?
You know what? Surprisingly better than Josh.
You guys think they played well?
Fowler. I haven't looked at the underlying numbers, but they didn't look as bad with the eye test as Fowler and Manson did.
Yeah, I like Hakanpää. I like that size, and I don't think, once again, we don't have a big physical guy. Shattenkirk's not that. I mean, Manson's that, but with Manson out, Hakanpää or Hanky Panky is really good, and I think Fowler, he needs that because he's going to go wandering, and that's kind of his thing. So he kind of needs somebody who's going to be a little bit more physical, a guy who's a little bit more dedicated to defense. So I thought it was very nice as far as the eye test goes. I wasn't expecting much from him, but I thought he did a really good job.
Speaking of it, Fowler and Hakanpää apparently registered a 60.67 expected goals for percentage tonight, which I don't know how many minutes they were on the ice together. I'd assume it's probably somewhere around 15 to 20. Decent signs, but I think Jay's right. Like, Hakanpää is the guy you want to put with Cam Fowler, a straight defensive defenseman, and Josh Manson is kind of that, but I feel like Josh Manson likes to get up in the play a little bit more than he probably should. Whereas Jani Hakanpää is a hits and blocks machine, and he is going to stay back, and he's not really passing center ice ever.
Josh Manson's he goes on adventures now and again, and as he goes out on adventures, if you're paired with Fowler will be always on an adventure, and you can't have two adventure seekers at the same time unless they're absolutely going to score or it's an amazing opportunity that you just say, even Hakanpää would have done that too. But I mean, yeah, Fowler's going to be that adventure seeker. You need someone to just kind of hold down the house until he gets back and he kind of writes things out.
Jay, I wanted to ask you, let's get to the second period because the first period was abysmal. But in the second period, how did you feel about that play that where Miller led in the second goal of the game? Do you think kind of that was soft? He wasn't really all that screen, but I guess it came off a little unexpected.
A little bit, but once again, I think Minnesota had this was like 14 minutes left in the second, and they had mustered up like 22 shots.
Through the first and second period.
First and second period, so like 22, but like 5 minutes in the second. So he's faced what you would maybe expect is almost close to a total of shots, and they didn't actually end up shooting all that much more after this. That will wear a goalie out, and that will wear a goalie out who has not played a game since February of last year. So he looked great all the way up there. I don't really even fault him on the Hartman breakaway because that was just a weird shot to begin with. The fact that he shot it so far out that it almost surprised him. The puck came out, and he actually almost got that with the glove and the leg pad, and it just snuck in. So he kind of like, that one kind of sucks. You'd hope maybe he had
Hayward would disagree with you. He did say if he just angled his pad a little more, that would have gone to the corner.
Hazy would have got it. That's what he said.
Completely. No, it was a surprise shot. I mean, he shot that so far out. I mean, that guy had a breakaway from center, and he shot it above the top of the circles on a breakaway. Who does that? I mean, usually get into the slot area and then maybe you make a shot. He shot it from way out. That rebound went there, shot it, and Ryan Miller almost had it. Back to this goal with the Bonino thing, that's like a weird broken play where it hits, it's off a face-off, and it's on the power play where they just generated a whole bunch of shots prior to that. And then it almost was a hand pass, but I think it hits a Duck's chest, drops down, and Bonino just slaps at it, and it just finds that one sweet spot. And even Miller knew where it was kind of going, but it was so quick and so sudden that it went in. Once again, I don't blame him from a goalie perspective that went in. It was just one of those broken weird plays. Like, it's a face-off going left, all of a sudden it's back to the center, the dude just slapping it 5-hole on the ground, and it just kind of surprised him, I think.
Miller sees that kind of fall off whoever it hit and bounce to the ice, it's off Bonino's stick like 2 seconds later. Like the amount of time to be able to pick that up is impossible. And then not only that, Bonino shoots it across the ice and he goes 5-hole like that. That makes it that much more difficult for him to get down and make that save. You can't really blame him on that one. I mean, the only way you make that save is if you've got exceptional hand-eye coordination, you see that somehow before it hits the ice, or you're just lucky and you're in position already and it hits your pads.
Or you're like me, you're just really late to things, and then it just happens. It's like, I was already here. I didn't even move to my right, and now I don't have to move to my left.
Just always stay in the butterfly.
Yeah, just stand there and hope it hits you. Close your eyes. That's all goalies do.
Can we get to D'Lo's goal?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Nick Deslauriers, 2 goals. He almost had... So I think it was the first or second game he almost had a goal. Then he scores the last game, and he almost had a second one in that one. And he scores in this one. He almost had a second one after he scored this one, too. But, I mean, this is, I guess, I don't want to say it's a typical Nick Deslauriers goal. He's got 5 in his last 6 games dating back to last year. But Carter Rowney generates the shot, and it just kind of bounces out of Kakinen's glove. Really, really bad attempt from Kakinen. But, I mean, this was what was said at the intermission. I forget who they were interviewing there, but Hazy said it as well in intermission, that, you know, this is a young goaltender with limited NHL experience that's playing in his first game of the season. Just throw pucks on net. And that's what Rowney does, and he can't kind of corral it with the glove, throws it right down on the ice, and Deslauriers there with his stick on the ice. If Steven was on the podcast right now, he would be he'd be ecstatic that Deslauriers scored this type of goal. Says the big guy's got to keep their stick on the ice, and I mean that's what D'Lo does here. And hey man, he's been competing all season. If there's one person that you can't fault for putting in effort right now, it's Nick Deslauriers. He's been going since, you know, the puck drop on game 1.
Well, yeah. Dave said that he's going to get his jersey next, and he also makes a comment in our chat. Big Dick Nick is the Ducks' biggest offensive threat this season.
You can't argue that. He's literally scored the most goals. I mean, he's tied with Comtois, but I mean, at this point, it's true.
Was it 7 goals total in 4 games?
Yeah, if you date back to last season, I don't know what the
no. I'm talking about this. The Ducks in general, I think, have 7 goals in 4 games, right?
Yeah.
6.
Yeah. What was it? Yeah, 2, 1, 1, 2. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's bad. And they even they interviewed Akins, and they asked him, "Hey, you worried about that?" And he had kind of that typical coach response. "Oh, I'm worried about that. I'm also worried about defense. Worried about the power play. Worried about the penalty kill. We're worried
everything
about
but goaltending right now."
And I was just like, I know, it's just like, hey, just come on, dude. It's just like, yeah, we need to do better. I mean, he kind of did. He's like, hey, we got 1 goal where someone was driving the center, but the Ducks, they see, at least in this game, this is what was reminiscent of last season, was just when they're in the defensive zone, there's no outlet, there's no movement. It's just, it seems stuck, it seems stagnant. And in the second period, and kind of cleaned up a little bit, but the first and third was kind of the majority of the game, and it wasn't consistent shifts where they had a momentum, or they had offensive zone pressure. Was maybe one and done. We're like, oh, maybe we'll get lucky here and we'll get a goal. Once again, they're just not generating enough chances against teams that they need to beat. And Minnesota is a team we have to beat if we want to get in the playoffs.
This is an easily winnable game if you're Anaheim. And it should have been. You have a rookie goalie in net. I mean, yeah, you're without Manson, but the Ducks didn't seem to be harmed by that too much. You don't have to exactly duplicate the second period to win it. You just have to be more competitive than they were. And yeah, Minnesota hangs back and plays that come get us style. We're not going to put any pressure on you, and that ends up being a problem for Anaheim after they go down 3-2. But I mean, they need to find a way to get the pucks. Like, Jesus, I hate saying it because it's like Jim Fox make fun of them all the time. It's like, get the pucks on net, score goals. Well, I mean, the Ducks, there were times they were taking shots and no traffic in front of that net. I'm like, whoa, what is going on here?
There's no creativity.
So, just kind of interesting to see.
You look at the goals they've scored. Like, all 3 of Comtois' goals were driving to the net and getting a stick on the ice. Same with Deslauriers. And Cam Fowler's was a 2-on-1.
Okay, what about Rowney? Rowney feeding it to Fowler.
Yes. It's a nice pass. It's a nice goal, but it's a broken play that turns into a 2-on-1 that Cam Fowler hesitates and then makes a nice shot. But it's a 2-on-1. And it's not off a 2-on-1 created off a nice play. It's a broken play that bounced up. And, D'Lo made a nice play to bounce it. I think he threw a stick at it, and it bounced to Carter Rowney. Again, Nick Deslauriers generating the offense there, and he's just doing the gritty work to get it done. But the only one I really see being creative out there is Sonny Milano. And Sam Steele to some extent.
He's looked good.
Not to discredit Max and Comtois and Deslauriers, because they are putting pucks in the back of the net. But they're not the creative guys in the lineup. They're doing what they do well, and they're scoring goals because of it. But Milano's come in and done well and done what you expected of him. But outside of him, Rickard Rakell is supposed to be a creative player, and we have seen nothing from him. He's been stone cold, dead silence in the first 4 games of the season. And Silverberg hasn't been good. And I know creativity and consistency are issues with him. And Adam Henrique has been non-existent. But the only 2 players I could see that can really have some creativity are Milano and Rakell, and we're only getting it from one of them. And then we watched that San Diego game, which we'll talk about a bit after this recap here. And you look at some of the players in that game, notably Trevor Zegras. That's what the Ducks are missing. Not that it's going to make them, significantly better, but they're so predictable out there.
Yeah, and I think Getzlaf's been doing good. I mean, I don't correct me if I'm wrong on this one. I think he's shown a little bit of that emotion, that physical edginess that he has, and he's willing to mix it up. And in this series, has been against Greenway, but even in the first series against Vegas, he was noticeably more physical. He's still kind of creating that play, almost like we used to see Zegras do in the World Juniors. It was like I just started watching what Getzlaf was doing. He's making smart decisions, and he holds on to the puck or moves at the right time. It's not quite finishing. Now he's there with Raquel. I don't think Raquel's having a good start to the year, but I'm glad that Milano's in there as well. But I figure I wanted to mention too that I felt like Getzlaf's having at least a good start, especially since he's supposed to be kind of taking a lesser role. I feel like he's still taking on a major role at this point.
I agree. I think he looked good. I think he has looked pretty good. Maybe not as the flash that we've seen, from the past, even just 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, where he was on top of the world at some points.
With drop passes for days.
Oh, those are my favorite things and favorite memories ever about Ryan Getzlaf. But it's like it said in our chat. We have to go see who said it. I think DB Lowry said, "Hey, 6 goals from your bottom 6 isn't bad." And then if you could just get these top guys that play these minutes to get under their feet and start making plays, then we have something maybe more fun to talk about. Some creativity, some goals, and we're just not seeing that right now.
I want to see that bottom. I'm sorry. I want to see that bottom 6 produce while the top 6 are also producing.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If they can just all kind of churn together a little.
We've always had that issue over the last couple seasons. Is when eventually it was Raquel, Henrique, and Silfverberg when they got going, the rest of the offense disappeared. And then when Derek Grant in the bottom 6, everybody then when they started going, Henrique, Raquel, and Silfverberg disappeared. There was never really been a time where everybody was going at the same time. And one guy for me who I think, I don't know how you get him out of the lineup, but one guy I think is playing his way out of the lineup, especially out of the top 6, is Danton Heinen right now. I don't know where he fits.
I was going to say Troy Terry. Not been impressed by Troy
I haven't,
Terry
but he's in the
all.
bottom 6, I guess, right now. Danton Heinen was with Getzlaf, and then today he was with Henrique and Silfverberg because it didn't work with Getzlaf, and now you've put him with, I guess, a new type of shutdown line with Henrique and Silfverberg, and he didn't look great. He does his job out there on the defensive side of the game, but offensively he doesn't really do much. And this comes to it again. I mean, we're going to talk about Trevor Zegras all year until he makes his debut. But at some point, how do you not advocate for that creativity for one game? We're all worried about burning a year off his ELC, and he's played one preseason game of pro hockey and he looked good. Is he ready and should he go now? No. But would the Ducks benefit from having that creativity in their top 6? 100% yes.
You think they should pull him up right now?
I'd give him a game. Why not? If he's not going to miss a preseason game.
I'd let him finish out the preseason and then come up. That's kind of my thing. Let's see what he looks like over the next week or 2.
Now, is it preseason, the AHL?
Yeah.
I thought that was... okay. That makes more sense. Yeah, I'd rather see him actually see when he does. He did that nice game, but it was against that Barracudas team that I believe were missing a couple of their top defensive players. And, if he's already kind of doing that, he's only got a couple of assists. Yeah, I'd like to give him a little bit more of that. And especially with forwards, maybe... I just would rather see the Ducks not pressure him into trying to, hey, no one else is scoring here. We need you to jump in and really kind of bail this team out, especially when this team's not projected to do much. I mean, we're literally just fighting to be the 4th best team in this division just to get in the playoff spot, just to get beat out in the first round. I mean, I guess anything can happen any given Sunday when you get into the playoffs, and it's the top 4 teams. But we're just kind of fighting those other teams right now, and I feel it's better served for the Ducks to figure out who they have in this season right now, because they know Zegras is going to be jumping up, and that's not in debate. It's just, why do it now? Let's see what we have and who we can maybe get rid of, or who's not moving forward with us at this point. That'd be my thing.
I don't think there's necessarily any pressure on him to, if he comes in the lineup and be like, man, you have to score for us because nobody else is. I think that's one of the better opportunities to put him in is, we're not getting things done. We need some creativity in our top 6. We know what you can do. We know your skill set. Go out there and do whatever you want. There's no restrictions. Go out there and be the player we know you are. You don't have to worry about, tracking back in your own zone right now. We want you to go out there and use that flair and use that creativity. For me, that's the best situation to put Trevor Zegras in for a debut, rather than saying, all right, you know what, you're going out in the third line. You might get some difficult matchups. You got to, play a little bit better in your own zone. You maybe don't have as much creativity and freedom to go out there and do what you want. Whereas right now, the Ducks are desperate for some of that flair, some of that creativity, and you can just go let him loose. And you know what? If he doesn't look good, he doesn't look good. Goes back down to San Diego, finishes preseason or starts the season down there, and you gave him a shot, and you gave the guy a chance. He's not lacking on confidence. He's not a type of player that you hand him a debut and he doesn't do well, that it's going to ruin his development. I'm not saying, we keep him up here and we force him into the lineup and he's bad and we keep him up here because he's the only creative player we have. I'm just saying at this point, what do you have to lose to give him a shot when you're desperate for that creativity?
Give him more chances in the AHL, I would say.
I want to see. I want to see what Jay's saying. I agree.
I don't hate it.
You agree with me or him?
I get where you guys are coming from. I mean, more seasoning in the AHL is never bad. I just think it's not detrimental to his development to hand him that debut now versus, waiting a week or 2 weeks or whenever preseason is done. You could just say, hey, we're playing you this one game. You're going to jump in. I hope you do well, and you're going back down.
Do you want to fast forward the rest of the recap and get to Zegras, because we've kind of jumped into that already?
No, we'll pop to it. We'll pop to it after, because I want to cover everybody in that Gulls preseason game. We obviously have the third period, so we'll get back to that. We'll table that.
Let's get to the third period then. Let's talk about the goal that ruined everyone's night. It was all about who missed that assignment in front of the net? Was
Sam Steele.
Sam Steele, just a little late to the party in the slot. He got caught puck watching, and Eriksson Ek was able to bury it. Not much that Miller could do there. I mean, unless he was Jay already would have pushed off the post a bit, 3 feet outside the crease. Ready.
Would have had the glove right in the top corner. It's like, oh, that's where you're going. Oh, silly me.
You got that easy push off the post, nice and easy for you.
No, that's going to be tough for a goalie, and quite honestly, it's a little tough for Sam Steele too. I think he was a little bit deep in because he was trying to support the defenseman, and then that pass came out, and he tried to make that poke, and he just missed it. If he was maybe a little bit further off of the goal line, a little bit closer to that slot area, he probably would have had more time to react to it and also hopefully deflect it away. So he was a little bit in the bad position. That guy was a little bit open, but you can't blame your wingers for not coming in all the way down to where Ek was.
I mean, he was on the half wall hoping that the puck wrapped around the horn, and he was able to get it and break out. And it looked like he was waiting, and then it waited too long. Is all it was. His missed assignment.
Troy Terry stumbled a little bit too. I mean, it's not his assignment. It's not his player. He tried to check back. He tried to check back a little bit. I think he noticed that Steele wasn't going to keep drifting out to the slot and cover his man, and he makes an effort at least to get back there, but he's too late.
Can we talk about Terry for a second? Is everyone really high on this guy still for no reason? I don't understand.
Well, Ed was.
Okay. I was lower on him than almost everybody else. And I don't want it. I don't want to sit here and be like, "Oh, I love that he's not doing well," because I don't. I want him to do well, but his underlying stats last year showed that he was a pretty good two-way forward, and he had the potential to be a great playmaker. But how long do we talk? How long do we sit here and talk about how the potential of a guy to do something until he doesn't? How long have we done that with Jakob Silfverberg? He has the potential to be a 30-goal scorer, but he hasn't done it. The consistency isn't there. There's something in his game that he hasn't got to it yet. So Troy Terry might have underlying numbers that say he has the potential to be a great playmaker, and we see flashes of it, but it always comes down to consistency. And, Sam Steele has looked great this year. He's looked great. He's taken a step forward. It's noticeable. You can see it. Maxime Comtois has taken a step forward. Troy Terry's a passenger on that line right now. We've seen his two line mates take a step forward. That's the Ducks' best line so far. And it's not because of the way Troy Terry's playing. It's because of the way Sam Steele and Maxime Comtois are playing. And, I don't want to sit here and say Troy Terry's doing nothing for that line, because I'm sure his defensive responsibility and his two-way game is allowing Sam Steele and Maxime Comtois to open up a little bit more. But at some point, you've got to be getting points. You got to be putting up points if you're being deemed a potential top 6 playmaker, which I just don't see Troy Terry being at any point. I think he'll be, potentially a good third-line winger at his very best, where he maybe can chip in for 30 points a year and just be a good, reliable player. But I can't see him being a top 6 player at any point.
It's put your money where your mouth is, and he talked about this season that he wants to be the guy that is a difference maker, and the guy that's going to score the goal or set up the goal or do something there. And through 4 games, still haven't seen it. So I mean, this was kind of like, hey, this is, we've given you a few years. We put you down the AHL. You do really well there. You come up here, had high expectations, but like Ed said, you're at this point, skill wise, not necessarily skill wise, but I guess production wise, you're third line. You're at best, that's where you're going to be, and we all hoped that was going to be a whole different thing, but at the same time, it's just like, if it's not producing, then you can't just continue to go like, well, I keep giving him those grade A chances until he's 33, and then maybe he might break out. That's just not going to happen anymore. So yeah, it's a little disappointing. It's only 4 games in. We'll see what happens as we kind of move forward, but I think he's got a limited amount of games to start proving his worth at this point. Right, Pat?
I was just waiting for Ed to see if I was going to say something before I did. I was like, how long is that going to be?
I could talk about awkward silence.
I could talk about Troy Terry for a while.
I know, that's why I was waiting. I'm like, I'm going to be quiet and not rebuttal until anything happens.
He's got a lot of guys breathing down his neck.
We weren't sure if we had audio in.
Yeah, and I don't dislike the guy. I just feel with our current combination of players in the team, he's just not a fit. He's just not a fit. And maybe we have too many Troy Terrys in the team, and some are better than the other. And he's the guy who's not as good. Because honestly, we talk a lot about Sam Steele. We talk a lot about Troy Terry. We talk a lot about Max Jones. I like Steele and Jones better than I've always liked Troy Terry. He's supposed to be scoring goals, and he had never really see it from the guy. He's had a few here and there, but to me, he's never been exceptional enough to be like, wow, he's great. Yeah, I'm glad we got him.
Well, that was going to be my question. What are your guys' expectations for Troy Terry? Because mine is that dude needs to score 20 plus goals. And then I'm thinking, all right, that's where I expect him to be. Right at this point, I'll be happy if he gets close to 10. I mean,
I would
that's
say
just what I
15
see.
goals would be what I would put him at.
In a full 82
15 goals,
game season?
be a good penalty killer. Yeah, 15, 20 max. That's what I would put him at.
Yeah, well, right now, but I'm saying, what would you have put him at, like prior to this season, or obviously he's got struggles, but like when you knew, because we've been watching him for the last few years, his potential, you thought, all right, this is a guy who can hit 20 goals for multiple seasons.
That's
and
what I
should
thought.
be good.
He's just a 20 goal at max.
And now it's like, if it gets 10 or 15, I'm jazzed, and it's just not what you wanted from him.
For
right?
me, going into this season, I thought he'd be under 10 goals, and he could sit around 20, 25 points, primarily picking up assists mostly, kind of like maybe an 8 and 13
but
season.
Would you picture that as a success?
Because my expectations for him were lower than most, I would. I don't think most people would think an 8 and 13 season, so 21 points in 56 games for Troy Terry would be a success based off what a lot of people think he can be. For me, that's what he is. He's a 10 to 15 goal, 30-point player in a full 82 game season at his best. Can he prove me wrong? Sure.
He's a slow Cogliano.
Maybe. I think he has a little bit more ability at times. Like he can be flashy and he can pull out some creativity every now and then.
Cogliano.
But
Yeah.
there's just some holes
finish.
in his game, and he's never been a finisher. He's been more of a setup guy and a playmaker. But we're still not seeing that on a consistent level where he is, making high danger chances or setting up, high danger scoring chances for the Ducks. It's just not happening, and he's playing on a line that's playing very well right now, and he's not really a part of that.
Is it time to bring up David Backes? Spark some offense.
Give the kid a chance, man. Poor David.
The fourth line's been doing well, so there's no room for him at this point.
Put him on the third
the
line.
fourth
Get
line's
Troy.
killing.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah, he could take Terry's spot. Let's
Take
just
Terry's spot.
David
Put
Backes.
Backes in there.
Sure, he's a better
Backes with
skater.
Steele and Comtois. That's how you anchor that line into the ground.
Didn't they pair Zegras with him in training
Well, then
camp?
we got another fighter now.
Yeah, welcome to the show. You get
Yeah,
to play with
You know who
that.
would be
show.
nice to see, though? It would be nice to see Steele. I think somebody mentioned this in the chat. Comtois, Steele, and Zegras. Zegras playing on the right wing because he's played in the right wing.
Kid line.
He was slated there, I think, in Ducks training camp, and then they played him there in the first game last night with, I think he played with DeLeo and Carrick in that game. And yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen him used as a right wing, to be honest with you. In the World Juniors, he was a left wing. In BU, he was a center, and back in the NTDP, he was a left wing. I mean, left wing's not too different than a right wing, and for Zegras, I think he operates almost better on the right side because he can get those shots off. I think he shoots better from the right side. I think he can get set up for the one-timer on the right side. And this guy can pass just as well on his backhand as he can on his forehand, so it really doesn't matter if you play him on the left or the right. He fits into the Ducks lineup better as a right wing, does he not? I mean, you look at the left side right now, Milano's playing well. You're not really going to take out Silfverberg if he's playing on the left when Raquel's playing on that line. Raquel can also play on the left. You've got Comtois playing on the left. On the right, you've got Heinen. You've got Terry. I think he fits into the right a little bit more.
Let's put the game to bed and get to the San Diego Gulls game.
Yeah. All right.
Because we're
So
gonna
Ducks
have,
lost.
I just want to hear more about Eddy talking about an American player
Oh yeah.
than anything
Yes,
else.
we gotta
the
get
Ducks
more
fell
time for
3-2
that.
to the Wild. If you all saw the game tonight. Shots 32-24.
Longest game breakdown ever. Thank you, Trevor Zegras, for
We got
interrupting
him.
us.
He comes up every show because right now the most exciting thing in the world of the Anaheim Ducks is Trevor Zegras, by far.
You're not excited for Nathan McKinnon? on Friday?
I'm excited for Nathan McKinnon to absolutely torch Hakanpää, Larson, and Walensky. Yeah.
Why do you think on my fantasy team against you, Pat, I'm not playing either goalies for the rest of the week? I got
Am
Miller
I
and
excited
Gibson.
for my
Nope,
fantasy
sitting
team
both
for
of these guys.
McKinnon to roll into Anaheim? 100% I am.
Awful. It's going to be fun to watch. Never. I don't like watching McKinnon and Anaheim.
I like
ever.
watching that
Not
Colorado
awesome.
team when they're
Not
not
this-
playing us because they're a fun team to watch. I mean,
True.
Rantanen, McKinnon, McCarr, Byram's playing for them now. Like, they have a gross amount of young players there. But yeah, it's never fun when they come to town. It's like when McDavid comes to town, or you got the Oilers with McDavid and Drysdale, and then you got Colorado comes to town with McKinnon and Rantanen.
I don't like watching anyone on Edmonton, dude.
And it's McJesus. Come on, get it right.
And that's where Brett lives. I can't ever partake in anything that happens in Winnipeg or Edmonton.
Well, you actually got where
Yeah,
he
he
lives
lives
some
right
cold
this
Canadian
time
city.
by accident.
Oh,
He
he
lives
lives
in
in
Alberta, but I think he lives between Edmonton and Calgary. So. Anyway, let's finally get into.
That's like saying he lives in California, somewhere between LA
Yeah,
and Orange
that's
County.
fair enough.
No. Sometime between L.A. and San Francisco.
Oh,
You
that's
said
true.
for 2.5 years on this podcast that I live in Toronto. So.
You
Oh,
do.
you don't. You live in England, London, right? London, England.
All right, let's get into this girls' game because this was the most exciting thing in surrounding the Anaheim Ducks lately. The Gulls preseason game after the first two got postponed against the rain. We get to see the Gulls line up against the San Jose Barracuda, and not only does Trevor Zegras make his debut, Jamie Drysdale gets to play. Lucas Dostal is playing. Jacob Perreault is playing, Benoit Olivier-Giroux is playing, Braden Tracy is playing, Hunter Drew is playing, Josh Maher is playing. Like, it was a fun lineup on paper. And then you've got the normal guys in Carrick and Agazino and DeLeo. But a lot of the kids and a lot of the prospects that were going to make their way to San Diego in the lineup, and barring a few, they all looked good. Trevor Zegras had 2 assists and probably could have scored a couple goals and set up a few more. I mean, typical type of performance from him all over the place. I thought Jamie Drysdale looked very calm and kind of reserved on the blue line and quietly getting things done as he does. And Jay would love, I don't know if you watched the game, Jay, but if you watched the highlights, the Lucas Dostal performance was nice to see. Stopped 28 of 29. If you're the Ducks organization, you look at who are your top 3 prospects right now, and Zegras, Drysdale, and Dostal, they all looked pretty good in a 5-1 win in the Gulls preseason opener.
It could have been a shutout, but I mean, that's what I would have got. But they don't invite me to these things. No, I mean, he looked good. I didn't get to see all of the game, but I got to see quite a bit of it. And it was a quiet game for Dostal as far as, he wasn't forced to do much, a lot of extremes. But he got the job done. He did it well. And the team played well in front of him. But to go in and finally get your first chance at playing hockey, especially in North America, new surroundings, new teammates, new everything, and you only give up 1 goal and I think it was 29 shots. I mean, that's a good start. It's a good foot forward, and just kind of goalies always take a little bit longer to get used to. Especially goaltenders always take a little bit longer anyways to develop, but also if you're coming from Europe or a larger rink versus what we have to do here in North America, it's just a little bit of time. See how it kind of moves forward, but it's a good first step, so I'm happy with that.
Yeah, so as Dave makes mention in the chat, he said, Jay, I don't think you see Dostal do extreme things because he doesn't have to. He's that good. He was pretty solid, man. He was pretty solid in that game.
He was fine. Like I said, yeah, I'm not going to pretend I saw the whole game and broke down every single move he made in that game. I saw him play. I saw him make smart moves, good moves, but I just didn't feel like he was necessarily challenged a whole lot. And that's fine. It's one game. It's the very first game for both of the teams, so an exhibition at that. As it kind of moves forward, the one thing AHL is kind of known for is wonky shots and weird breakdowns that goalies aren't quite ready for. But this guy's also played
2 seasons in
what was the Liga. Yeah, but what was the
the Czech Republic.
Czech Republic. So he played in that World Juniors and where he was dominant, but he was dominant and the team he was in front of really sucked. So, I mean, already he was kind of prepared to, I guess, play above what was expected. So I think he'll be doing very well in the AHL. I just want to see how he transitions game in, game out, and how he progresses. This was a nice
He's
first
going to
step.
struggle because that was his first game in North America. First game on the small ice. He's played 2 straight seasons in a men's league on the big ice and did extremely well. Won goaltender of the year last year and started this year, even better pace than he did in the season where he was clearly the best goaltender in that league for a team that hemorrhaged shots on a regular basis, just like the Ducks do. He kind of fits right into their position right now. Not saying he's going to get any games this year because he's not. But with the way the Ducks play defense right now, he kind of fits a system like that. But the one thing with Dostal that's always been is he's exceptional in his positioning. He's not a big guy, so if you're not a big goaltender, you've got to be positionally sound. And you saw glimpses of that throughout this Gulls game. There's some things he has to work on, and you can still see that there needs to be an adjustment to the smaller ice. But it was a better debut than I thought it would be. He looked a lot more comfortable than I thought he would coming over from Europe and kind of playing in a different style of game for the first time. So it bodes well. I mean, we'll see how that plays out over an entire AHL season because anything can happen. But for me, he's the number one goaltender. I don't think anybody's really challenging for him for that spot in San Diego with Stolarz kind of infinitely on the taxi squad because he has to be there. So he'll have plenty of chances to prove his worth down there.
Before we go any further on this, with Jason drinking his beer, just reminds you that we're going to be doing a Patreon show this weekend, guys. We're doing our Pucks and Brews, shooting for Saturday. I think Jay's the only guy who hasn't confirmed it. But for those of you that listen to the show now that don't know, we have a Patreon. It's patreon.com/forevermighty. We're able to basically provide you guys with extra content. And also, we've been doing really cool giveaways every year. People get stuff. I think right now we're working on hoodies, like trying to get some more hats. We do watch parties when COVID's not happening. We try to engage you guys all the time at Discord. So to those of you who don't already know, we have a Patreon. If you would like to help out the show and get more of us talking hockey, that's what we do over on our Patreon. We discuss the entire NHL and random things. And we always like to try to embarrass Ed, especially Jay. So if you guys want to support us, it's patreon.com.
Yeah, lots of fun topics on that. I mean, I'm sure we'll talk a bit more about the Gulls by the time we get to that show because they have a couple more preseason games coming up. But
are they going to broadcast all of them on?
I believe all
YouTube?
the preseason
they're
games
doing
are,
that.
but then it switches to AHL TV once the season starts, which is a bummer.
Oh, like they got to make money or something.
And it's apparently super expensive. Brett was saying it's not cheap the other day, which I'm not surprised.
So AHL TV package?
It's from what I remember looking at it's pretty expensive because you can't pick a specific team.
Is it expensive Canadian or is it expensive American?
Oh, that's a good question.
I would assume it would be the same.
All regular all regular season games, all teams, all games, $44.99.
Oh, I don't know what.
For the
Brett's
whole
let me
year.
down here.
Oh.
Never. I don't know.
$45. I mean, NHL TV is a garbage piece of
probably,
trash.
I know,
that's probably $80.
But what
that's
is that in
80,
loonies?
$80, $90 here. No, not 90, but it's about
Loonies?
$70 to $80.
How
Which
much
is still
it?
not bad.
How many bags
bad,
of milk
considering NHL TV is like $250 or something like that for the entire season.
Whoa, it's $149 here. You figured you guys would get cheaper NHL stuff considering you guys birthed hockey.
No, they
Yeah,
charge us
it's supposed to be
a
your
premium
sport.
for that. So
Because they want you to go to all the games.
Yeah.
You can't watch them. So $44.99 if you want to watch Trevor Zegras play this season.
Might be worth it.
I might get that.
I mean, I'd rather watch that, right? I'm just kidding. I like watching the Ducks games.
Somebody
Can't
joked
deny
we
the
should have
Ducks.
done a post game show.
I would buy this and never watch it. That's my problem.
Yeah,
I would
that's
never
the thing
watch
with me too. Is
I
like a lot of these games are going to be on during Ducks games too, so it's not like you can really watch both. And then I'm paying $80 or for you guys $45, and then I'm watching maybe half the Gulls games this season. And then if Zegras gets called up, my desire to watch goes down because Drysdale's not going to be there all year. Because once the OHL finally announces a start date, after Ontario comes out of lockdown, then that agreement that's in place right now that's allowing him to play there, which he normally wouldn't be allowed to do so, he's going to go back to Erie. Jacob Perreault, who played in the first game, is going to go back to Sarnia. And you won't be able to see either of them with San Diego. I mean, Zegras obviously can still be there. Max Jones still be there.
I don't know where those countries are, but are they in North America?
You don't know where Erie
No,
is?
Ontario is in California.
Erie's in the... It's in your side of the country.
It's by New York. Yeah.
So your side of the
Erie,
the,
Lake
I
Erie.
thought it was a lake.
Yeah,
Is it just a lake?
I hate you guys.
Love you, Ed.
All of this and more on our Patreon show. That's where we frustrate.
What did you guys think of Drysdale in that game? Because I
kind of didn't really notice him.
You didn't what?
I didn't really notice him all that much.
I would disagree. I mean, he wasn't Zegras noticeable, but he made a couple of very clean zone exits, and he was just reliable. He almost scored, too. I think it was cleared off the line by whoever was in net for the Barracuda. Just almost squeaked through. Like, I thought out of the Ducks defensemen, or not Ducks, I guess Gulls defensemen in that game, I think he takes the cake for best defenseman just above Josh Mahura in that game. I mean, if you like the grit side of it, Hunter Drew fought, but I think Drysdale was their best defenseman in that game.
Whenever he was on the ice, if he was on the ice with Zegras, I didn't notice him.
You're watching
That's-
Zegras.
Well, because it's American and American.
I just
was
saw
nuts.
red, white, and blue go across the
It's
ice.
just, it was like,
Just all
is
back
that,
and
is that
forth.
red and white over there? Who knows?
No, seriously, I was mostly focusing on watching Zegras. Like, just be completely honest with you, I didn't pay a lot of attention to. Would you guys say Drysdale? I heard Steven owned Drysdale.
Drysdale.
It's so weird. Why does Steven say it? Steven lives in Beverly Hills. Like, what the hell?
I believe it's Drysdale. I mean, it's spelled Drysdale.
Maybe Pete Davidson says it, so he copied him. Who knows?
Drysdale's still a couple
Never know.
years away, but he did have a nice debut. Like he didn't look overwhelmed.
I'll watch him.
He didn't look
next
overwhelmed, which I think is the good thing. Like, he's the youngest defenseman on that blue line. Josh Mahura looked good, but that's no surprise. I mean, he's talent-wise right now, he's the best defenseman on that team. And today he just got called up to the taxi squad, so I hope that means he's going to at least check into the lineup for one of these games against Colorado. Doesn't mean anything. He is waiver exempt, so he's an easy call up to the taxi squad if they need another body there. But he looked really good. And, you know, from the get-go this season, he's been kind of the guy on the blue line that I want to see play. You know, I know it's going to be on the third pairing. He doesn't really jump in front of Fowler and Lindholm, and he's never really played on the right side. But even if it is on the third pairing right now, not that Larson's been bad, because I actually think he's been better than we expected. But Josh Mahura, every time he's come up, I've been impressed with how he's played. But he somehow hasn't earned a spot. He
I
just
would
somehow
agree with
hasn't
that.
earned a spot yet, because he's got Larson and had Pettersson in front of him, and you know, he's got a couple other guys now that are kind of sitting in those spots. Ben Hutton comes in, and I guess on the pecking order because of the fact that Ben Hutton signed a contract, and you know, Mahura can easily be sent down to San Diego. He's now kind of behind Hutton as well. I just want to see him get a couple games this year, because I think he's good enough to be playing on this third pairing right now.
And do you think he's just the victim of the contract or the
A
salary
bit,
cap?
yeah. I don't know, you know, all the ins and outs. And sometimes the Ducks like to keep their defensemen down in the AHL for longer than maybe they need. When we remember Shea Theodore and Brandon Montour and how long they spent in San Diego, but
You're not allowed to say Shea Theodore on this podcast.
Yeah, it's
you
sacrilege.
know what though? Josh Mahura reminds me of a little bit of a Shea Theodore light. Not that he's going to be Shea Theodore by any means, because Theodore's ridiculous. He scored 2 goals by the way tonight, which hurt me a little bit. But Josh Mahura has a similar style to his game that Shea Theodore does.
Let's hope you're right. I would take 3/4 of whatever Shea Theodore is. We got to come up with a nickname for him. I don't like saying his name. It feels like it makes me. Everyone's sad. Everyone gets so sad to talk about Shea Theodore. Like I think Eddie said today, Shea Theodore's freaking scored a goal tonight.
He scored, and I immediately messaged you on Twitter and said he's out here scoring 2 goals and making me feel like crap. So
call him the stoner sacrifice, stoner compromise.
I could do that. Oh, the comp. Oh, like, oh, you know, that's like a time in Ducks
the
history.
compromise
Called
scored. The
The
stoner compromise.
stoner
scored.
compromise. That'll be like in Ducks history in the books. They're gonna write it
Apparition
like
said in
that.
the chat, he pulled the Harry Potter, and he said, "He who will not be named."
Oh,
Yeah, that's good.
I think he said the Harry Potter thing because everyone calls you Harry
Yes,
Potter.
Yeah. From,
Why is he in a dungeon
I'm in the
again?
same place I was in
Oh.
show 1 when I got the nickname. And we don't have Steven here who got named Broke Pete Davidson, but he'll be here hopefully later this weekend. We can reignite that meme. Let's
get to
I
Julius
want to tie a
Honka,
bow.
dude.
I want to tie a bow on this Gulls game because
Tie bow. Is that like what do we do?
Tybo.
couple
Tybo,
guys
that's
we
when
didn't
you,
mention.
Like, you fight, right?
Oh, who are we
Max
talking
Jones
about?
played,
Oh.
which was surprising because he was put on the IR,
did.
but I guess it wasn't that bad. He played. He looked okay. I mean, he did what he normally does. He tried to beat people up and looked okay on the offensive side of the game.
Why on the goals?
No. What?
Wait, Max Jones
I
played
played
on the Ducks
Gulls.
today?
We're talking about the Gulls
No,
game.
we're
Where
still
have you
talking about
been?
the goals game, dude.
Well, yeah, I said that on the goals. You said no.
I thought you meant he was beating up players
Anyway.
on the Gulls.
No, I said he played on the
No,
goals. Sorry.
Yes,
We're
he
fishing up.
played on the goals in that game. He looked pretty good. Benoit Olivier Grew got a goal, but it was a Poturalski shot that
That's
bounced
boy.
in off him. But I mean, Grew did what he did well. The broadcast wanted to call him Gruel for the entire game, as if His name is spelled like Grool. He had an okay game. Braden Tracy was a little bit kind of, a ghost in that game. He didn't really show up too much. Same with Jacob Perreault. He was the one guy outside of Zegras and Drysdale that I was looking forward to seeing, and he was kind of just not there for the entire game. His effort wasn't there, which has been a problem with him in the past. But it's game one. The same thing, we're talking about Zegras doing so well, looking so great. The one game of a preseason game. So I'll give Jacob Perreault a little bit more time to catch up.
Yeah. I mean, the NHL plays a bunch of preseason games. That's what these are.
Yeah.
The Ducks will start playing at game 10.
Yeah. And how much credit do we ever put in NHL preseason games? There'll be a guy who will score a hat trick, some random, no name who just got signed from Europe, and then he'll play 3 NHL games and never play again.
I want to be that guy.
Yeah. Get that big contract first.
So we tied the bow on the Gulls game. Now we got to get to who Eddy panicked about this morning, trying to get me to figure out Julius Honka. Everybody's in love with this guy across Twitter. Everyone says the stats guys love him. The Stars waived him today. Now everyone's saying Bob Murray's got to pick him up. I don't know. Where are we in the waiver slot to get him?
No, there's a few teams in front of us. I haven't checked kind of the order in a while. But he'll get claimed. I would be surprised if he didn't. Analytically, he's okay. I mean, he's better than what we have in terms of Larson and Welinski when you look at the last 3 seasons. He's not going to put up a ton of points, but he's just, a decent defenseman. And when it's with Josh Manson out for the foreseeable future, it's not a bad gamble to bring in another right-shot defenseman who could play in the lineup. If Hakanpää can stick with Fowler and you can bring in Julius Honka to be a right-shot defenseman, that's better than Andy Welinski, because Welinski didn't look great tonight. And then you just send Welinski either down to San Diego or back to the taxi squad. I think you've got a guy who has a ton more NHL experience than Welinski. Looked good in Finland last year, and if it doesn't cost you a ton, then why not? Jay Southern just said we are 5 or 6 in the waiver slot, apparently.
Well, my question is, why hasn't he already been claimed?
Claimed until tomorrow. He got placed on waivers today, so a team will claim him, I guess, today. It won't get announced until tomorrow when, whoever got claimed gets announced and the new waivers.
Well, that waiver window has to close, right? Yeah.
So all right. Well, help me in my ignorance here. If someone drops him and you're the first in line to be able to claim him, you go, "Oh, I want him." They just say, "Well, all right, you get him, but you gotta wait until tomorrow. Then we'll announce it." Or
the lowest team gets first pick is what chat's saying. The chat is talking about.
I think officially claims cannot be processed until tomorrow. So teams can still put in claims up until there's a deadline period, which is tomorrow.
Well, who cares if that the first team claims him? Then who cares whoever else wants to try and claim him? It's already done. It's a done deal, right?
I would assume so. I don't know how the NHL works it behind the scenes, right? I don't know if they just get submissions for a waiver claim.
Why not, Ed? You're Canadian.
Whatever. Either way, the way it works is any team can put in a claim. Whoever ends up being higher on that waiver list that put in a claim gets the player.
Gets him.
So they just wait for everybody to come in, and then they say F you to the other 40 teams, or not 40, but 30 other teams.
Well, there's a time. There's a window of time where everyone puts their pick in, and whoever is at the number 1 slot at the end of the time, it gets gets the pick.
But that number 1 team is the I'm just saying, if that is the team that already puts it in immediately, that should just all right.
Yeah. The NHL
we already
sends
know
a
this is
memo
going to
to
happen.
the rest
It doesn't
of the
matter.
league. Be like, don't worry, the Detroit Red Wings put in a
Stop
claim.
trying. We're just gonna post it now.
Yeah, if the Red Wings put it in, the Blackhawks put it in, it's over.
Which honestly, somebody will. Does he make it to the Ducks at 5 or 6?
Hey, did we miss the boat on Bobby Ryan? Right? I mean, 4 goals, boys.
I mean,
Oh,
you know what?
The
sad thing is, as much as I know you're kind of joking there, do you think I know?
I like
could
Bobby
the Ducks
Ryan.
actually use a player like Bobby Ryan and his finishing ability, his creativity right now, if he is kind of not back to what he used to be, but he's kind of back in the sense that he's in a better mind frame and he's not injured anymore? Could they not use him right now over a player like Danton Heinen?
No. No, absolutely not. The top two lines on the Ducks are just scoring goals at a ridiculous rate. We have no room to put anyone close to Bobby Ryan's skill in there. We'd have to put in the AHL.
We'd have to bring up Bacchus before we had him. That's kind of the way it looks. I've gotten so much shit over the years. I still stand by. I'd take Bobby over Jakob Silfverberg all day. I would. Just would. Not his contract. His contract was not awesome.
The reason we got rid of
the player, I would take Bobby over. Oh, and I know there was pick implications and all this other stuff that happened, but between the two players, I was.
What did the Red Wings pay him? I don't even know off the top of my head, but I don't think it wasn't much.
I think it was really minor as far as how much they had to pay for it.
Chris in our chat said play Bobby with Zegras on the goals.
So Bobby Ryan with the Red Wings is making $1 million this year. That's it. I mean, the Ducks are right against the cap, but
it's amazing we're right against the cap with this team. It's just phenomenal.
It's pretty sad that we're saying
it gets better next year.
Oh, man.
This
is our kick in the ass year where we kind of we have to take it, and then after this, Perry comes off. Getzlaf gets probably a new contract. I mean, so right there, we're going to get millions to move things if we want to. I'm just more impressed that the Ducks are always at the cap after being never anywhere close to the cap.
The interesting season will be 2022, 2023. That's when Hampus and Manson come off the books, and Ricard Raquel.
Do you think Manson's actually going to last all the way?
I think two of those three guys don't make it.
I do. You're saying Rax and Manson don't make it?
Potentially.
No,
I mean, like Rax is...
I think Lindholm will be there.
Super tradable this year because of that contract and the extra year on it. In terms of like his value this year versus next year, I think he's worth almost double this year than what he is next year because he's a rental next year. A cheap rental at that, but a team looking at him this year saying, okay, if I'm right against the cap or I'm pretty close to the cap, I can dump some salary here, dump, $3.5-4 million of a guy we don't use, bring in Ricardo Raquel for 2 years, and we can plug him into our top 9, and he'll do a better job.
I agree. If Rax catches fire in February,
I don't think he has to. Gone. I don't think he really has to because I think teams know that the ability is there, and like,
but that would really ensure it, right? If he's killing it this year,
sure. But if he's killing it, then we actually have a chance at making the playoffs.
Oh God, Bobby would keep him too.
He would. It's almost better if him and the Ducks aren't killing it at that point.
Yeah.
Don't say that. I do not want a repeat of our first full year from this podcast. That was the most horrific post-game show.
Yeah, we can really pick when we want to start podcasts. It's right when the Ducks aren't good anymore.
Oh my God, Eddie and I were talking about in Twitter earlier today. Was like they lost 19 of 21. That was quite the streak.
Yes, glad to be a part of that.
I think when we look at Ricard Raquel and you look at teams against the cap right now that could be interested, like I think the Islanders are near the top of that list as a team that could be interested in him and looking to add another forward. And really having some bad contracts that they can move on from and dump off. That really, I think they only have about a year or maybe 2 years left on it. I'm not sure how long Andrew Ladd has on his deal, but I'm sure the Islanders would be welcome trying to get rid of that contract. It might pay extra into a deal to get Ricard Raquel. I think the Blues would be a team like that. And I don't think you can ever discount the Tampa Bay Lightning from trying to pull off some sort of cap gymnastics to bring in a player. You look at the last 2 trades they made, they like bringing in guys with a couple years on a low contract, and they'll pay a premium for it. So,
dude, they're gonna get everyone back before the playoffs start. They're fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Kucherov's coming back.
I think we dump him off on Boston. They like all of our crappy guys.
Yeah, as Chris said in here, Pat would love Raquel on the island. I would absolutely not. I hope the Islanders never win another game in their history. That would be a dream come true.
Well, it turns out I have his goalie, and they keep getting shut out.
So. Keeps getting shut
trash. Out. You're trash. Freaking trash, man. So, do you guys want to get to fan questions?
Yes. Nah.
I didn't realize how long we were in here.
Jason Billings says, "Is it choke or tank?" I can't remember. You guys think the Ducks?
They're not intentional. I mean, they're not doing it to tank. They're just going to be so bad that they're going to be near the bottom. Like, that's likely where it's going to go. I mean, we all predicted that they had a chance to maybe sneak into that fourth spot, which I think is still possible because I don't think Arizona's good. I don't think LA's good. I don't think San Jose's good. And, Minnesota, we beat them 1-0. They beat us 3-2. I think we're right kind of close to them in terms of talent level. They don't score a ton of goals either. They get their offense from which will presumably be Kaprizov and Fiala. And Fiala has almost 20 shots this year and no points, no goals. And Kaprizov has been leading the way for them. But I think the Ducks are still in the mix there, but they're going to be a tank team unintentionally because they're not going to be able to generate enough offense to stick around and really make a hardcore playoff push.
Well, we just got to put Zegras in there, right?
Zegras needs to go in for us to watch the game and have fun, and for the Ducks to have some creative. Zegras is not going to go in there and turn this into a playoff team or a team that's better than Vegas, St. Louis, or Colorado, but he makes them better.
I don't think anyone's expecting us to be the top 3 team, but can we compete with the bottom 5 other teams or 4 other teams? That's where the other one. Absolutely. And I feel it'll come down, in my opinion, if they have, because most of these are like 2-game series. So if they do a 2-game series against Colorado, St. Louis, and Vegas, if they can get 1, they're lucky if we can get 2 points. And if we could do that, and then against these other teams, we get 3 points, we can be that 4th team. And I don't think that's necessarily out of the realm of possibility for us because, again, Arizona's not good, San Jose's not good, LA's not good, we're not really good, Minnesota's not really good. We just got to be the best of not good. If we can do that, I guess we got a chance at the playoffs, and that's all we kind of need, I guess, at this point. But once again, I don't tank. I hate tanking to tank and trying to get a good draft pick. I don't like that mindset. And as much as other people will, well, who cares? We're not really going to win it. It's just as long as you get into the playoffs and we can at least be a playoff team, then at least there's an opportunity for it. I just don't want to be last.
At that point, I think that's where I disagree. I don't want the Ducks to be bad. And I don't endorse teams tanking, but would I rather the Ducks squeak into the last playoff spot and get eliminated in the first round or get another top 5 pick or a top 10 pick? I will take the top 5 or top 10 pick every time with the way this team is right now. They desperately need another guaranteed talent from the top half of this draft to move this rebuild forward. And sneaking into the playoffs because you're the best of the rest, you're the best of all the other shitty teams, is not something the Ducks should be happy about at this time. Honestly, who do you see them beating? If they scrape in, that means their foes through the first 2 rounds are Colorado, St. Louis, and Vegas, if this division goes as planned. There is absolutely no way they're beating one of those teams in a 7-game series. John Gibson could stand on his head. I do not think the Ducks win 4 out of a 7-game series against those teams, or if they shorten it down.
Maybe against St. Louis.
Even them. I don't. I think that's probably the best chance out of any of them, but
we don't have the score.
I can't see it. Like, John Gibson would be the only reason the Ducks would have a chance, and even then, that would mean he would have to win them 4 games because the Ducks aren't outscoring St. Louis, so somebody is standing on their head there. And I don't see the benefit of being a playoff team for the sake of being a playoff team because you got in and everybody has a chance versus going and getting another top 5 pick and helping this team out immediately for the future.
I just don't understand hey, we're not a favorite to win the Stanley Cup, so why the hell try? Just tank it, see if we can get a top 10 pick, and see if that works out 4 years down the road or 3 years down the road. I just don't get that mentality for me. It's just like, play the best you can, see where you're at. And even if you get in the playoffs, you can be a number 8 seed. It's not unusual for a number 8 seed to all of a sudden go to the Stanley Cup Finals and play for the Stanley Cup, or at least the opportunity to do it. Yeah, is it a long road? Is it, are you favored? Hell no. But the Kings went in at number 8, and they won a Stanley Cup. Multiple teams had come in as 7 and 8, and all of a sudden just kind of ran if you get hot at the right time. Not saying the Ducks are that team right now, but we don't know where they're going to be at the end of this season or where they're moving forward. And if things start kind of playing out the right way, I just hate to go like, well, listen, if we only get in the number 4 spot, what the hell's the point? Just tank. Let's get a few points lower, and maybe we'll get a top 10 guy who might work out some way down the road.
I don't want them to tank. I'm just saying if they finish in that 4 spot versus and go out and get eliminated in the first round versus them finishing lower and getting a top pick, I would be happier if they finished lower than them making the playoffs and getting eliminated in the first round.
Everyone would, but at least you got the chance to play in the playoffs, and who knows if you get past that first round or that second round, or you go a little bit further, and all of a sudden this team gains a little bit more experience, a little bit more confidence, and then they move into the next year. Hey, we can do it. We've got the talent. It's there. It just, it hadn't clicked until later this season. So I just, once again, I mean, not saying that it's all there, but I would much rather, as a fan, watch the team try to progress and get better versus just, hey, listen, we're 4 games in. We only have 1 win in regulation, so we'll just pack it in. Let's see if we can get a top 10 pick, and maybe that might make sense 3 years down the road, and it was worth it.
Now they got the locker room experience, right?
I see both halves of it. I'm not. I mean, what's the point of middling? You don't get a great pick, and what's the point of tanking? That guarantee doesn't work out for you, right? I get it.
There's validity to both sides.
What are you gonna
100%. Like, I'm not saying by any means is Jay wrong here.
Just say I'm right. We can move on.
What do you? We got this. We spent way too long in that conversation.
Right.
So there is a message in the chat. It's from one of our Patreon members. Jason, his wife Shannon, actually asked thoughts on NHL COVID protocols that might allow for teams to lose draft picks. Is that something that might be happening? Am I missing something here? Or maybe she's asking, should they?
That it might allow teams to lose draft picks. Yeah, I'm not sure how that. I haven't heard about that. I'm ready to look into that.
I would be for it, honestly, because if these guys screw up the season for being morons, then.
Well, the Washington Capitals just got fined $100,000 for not following protocols, just because a few guys went to Ovechkin was one of them. Went to they were in a hotel or something like that, and they just ended up hanging out, but it wasn't sanctioned. They shouldn't have been doing that, and yada yada yada. But they got fined $100,000 for it. At least the team did.
Well, I know that it's NBA teams. That was the thing they talked about. They could lose draft picks, and players could be fined or suspended. They break COVID protocols. Maybe the NHL, maybe that's what they're referring to there. So they said it was in an article today. I didn't see it. So if the NHL is going to crack down and force teams to lose draft picks, that would be very interesting. And I would love to know where they go to. Do they go against do they go to the opposing team when the game gets canceled? I wonder how that's going to go. I want to find that article. If anyone in chat has it, let me know where to read it.
I'm all for it. Arizona they lost a bunch of draft picks for cheating in the combine. They were bringing players out and individually testing them, which you're not allowed to do, and they lost draft picks. If guys are out there purposely breaking rules, having parties or whatever, and it impacts an NHL season, I don't think Dallas and Carolina are at fault for this year, but you look at the impact of their teams now being out with COVID, it's impacted Florida more than anybody else. Florida, I think, has only played 2 games at this point because their first opening games were against Dallas and Carolina. They can't play right now. And
Dallas is the one who's
in a way, but Dallas has the COVID cases. Dallas has the COVID cases. So there's a reason they can't play. Florida has nothing wrong with their team, but they can't play because 2 other teams, Carolina and Dallas, that they're supposed to play, have issues with COVID. And I don't think that their outbreaks are because players weren't following protocol. But if it was, and if it was a case like Washington, I think, first warning, a fine, sure. Second warning, maybe you do something else. I think if it gets to a 3rd or 4th warning, at that point, you got to start doing serious punishments and
Well, it was in the ESPN article. I did find it. It said established violations of and or lack of compliance with COVID-19 protocol will result in significant club and individual sanctions, including potential forfeiture of games, fines and reimbursements of expenses, loss of draft choices, and or ineligibility for participation in training activities. Yep. And that's
seems like it ramps up.
Yeah, it's like you messed up. Okay, now we're serious.
It's a mix of player and team consequences. So I think like if a player breaks protocol, he could get suspended, and then the team also could get an impact of a fine or losing draft picks, depending on the severity or how many times they break the rules. I'm fine with that. If a team keeps breaking the rules, like if Washington ends up getting hit 3, 4, 5 times because their players can't follow the rules, then sure. I mean, at the end of the day, like somebody's got to do something in that organization to say, hey, like we're getting hit now. You guys gotta. There's a protocol here for a reason. Let's go.
You can't stop Ovi from making TikTok videos with his teammates in a hotel room.
Let's move on to the next question. It's from St. George Sports Fan. It says Eakins never seems to have much energy behind the bench, especially in his Edmonton days. Do you wait until the end of the year to want a new bench boss, or when do you start to pull the plug on Dallas? Let's keep these answers short, just because I know we can get into a giant conversation. But are you guys leaning towards pulling Dallas, or are you giving him the full season and then assessing the situation?
This poor dude can't catch a break. His first season is the one that's cut short on a team that has to figure out what their new direction is from years of a different direction. And then so his main gripe was that he doesn't show enough emotion behind the bench, and while he has a mask on, I'm not sure you want that guy who's jumping around, just throwing sticks and chairs on the ice while his team's not doing well. I don't think the Ducks have played particularly horrible considering what we expected. I think they've done very well, and I think he's pointing out good things that they're doing, and he's being a good coach. He's not going to throw players under the bus.
Let me ask you this, man.
Okay.
So
I get one wrong.
Gerard Gallant is available. Would you trade, if you could, fire Eakins and get Gerard Gallant?
100%. Don't be stupid. Yes, I would. Are the Ducks gonna do it? Absolutely not. They've given the vote of confidence for Eakins, and they're gonna give him that chance. And I think it's an
unfortunate thing.
It's a D-bag move if you just go like, listen, love you, told you all about how we're gonna be this together, but that other chick just came along and she's
what
really
if they fired Dallas and they bring in Daryl Sutter as head coach?
You know what? That would be more in line with what the Ducks would actually do.
He's a proven commodity.
That would be on brand.
He knows the players. He's been with them for the last year and a half. Would I want Gerard Gallant over Dallas Eakins any day of the week? Would Gerard Gallant make this team infinitely better? Probably not. They just don't have the personnel in place to be a good team. And to answer the question, do I care about Dallas Eakins' lack of energy behind the bench? No, not really, because that's kind of how he is. He's a laid-back guy. He doesn't have a ton of energy. He doesn't get fired up behind the bench. Like you said, he doesn't pull a torch reaction and throw tables and chairs and throw a fit and bust it up with the media after the game. Like it's not Dallas Eakins. It's not who he is. It's not his personality.
And I don't want that coach.
I do.
You want a guy who's pissed half the time?
Yeah, well, I mean, those interviews are amazing.
You know who we want? We want Ricard Gromberg. That's who we want. We still want Ricard Gromberg.
It's instantly. That is by far one of my favorite interviews we've ever done. Was with Ricard Gromberg. That guy was great. I think he'd be great.
Love a
here,
European coach.
Too bad we didn't.
That would be nice.
Yeah. So final question tonight is also, or it comes from David Vargas. Sorry. He says, if this is like a follow-up to the Dallas Eakins one, because he goes, if you could trade GMs, who would you trade Bob Murray for? I already know my answer. I'll let you guys go first.
That's a pretty easy one for me. I mean, there's some other good options up there, but you just look at what he's been able to put together in Tampa. I mean, they won the cup because of what he put together. Breezeball made some moves last year, but it was Stevie Y's team, and I have full confidence he'll be able to do that in Detroit at some point. He just has to build this team now. They're in a sewer in Detroit in terms of what talent they have there, so he's slowly kind of working that back up. But he would be at the top of my list.
Jay?
Oh, Eddy.
You were talking.
Oh, it's I mean, Eddie's so smart. He sees young talent. He knows
He did
how
win
to
the
make
FIFA
it.
Fantasy League last season.
I mean, yeah, just talk to him. He's the best manager of fantasy.
So in chat, they're saying that I would love Tortorella as the Ducks, the Ducks GM
Pseudo.
or
He
if he was here, or Patrick Waugh behind the bench would be great.
I don't know. Whoever blows up and then you can talk about, that's all you.
I'm in. I would honestly, if I had to pick one GM around the league, it'd be close between three guys, and one would definitely be Stevie Y. Another one would be Joe Sakic. And then another one, honestly, would be Rob Blake. What he's done in LA in just that short amount of time. The way
All
they
former
were
players.
unreal, right? But those are my three. And if I had to pick one, the best track record is Stevie Y. You got to go with it. And Jay picks Eddie.
I pick Eddie. I mean, hands down, he's the best Canadian for the job.
Eddie, can we do a thing on our Patreon show, on our Pucks and Brews, where if you lose, you have to chug a bag of milk?
Oh God, that's worse. I'd rather chug like actual alcohol or beer.
Well, we'd have to get it back.
God, I'd
We'd have
feel
to get
way
it back.
worse.
You wouldn't chug it? Wait, you would feel worse chugging a bag of milk than a bag of beer?
100%, I think. Like, that's a lot of milk.
Well, how much are your bags? They're like
I don't know.
What do you guys do?
It would
Milliliters
be
over
in
there?
liters. I think it's like a whole liter of milk.
Oh, not the whole.
Can I get a liter of cola?
A liter of cola. That's what I was thinking.
God, I mean,
Those are all liters.
no, I don't think so.
Let's wrap the show with that. So everyone in chat, whether you're a Patreon member or not, would you guys rather watch Eddie chug a liter of beer or a liter of milk? And we'll create a game show around it for Patreon one day.
just have no
whatever
choice.
wins, Eddie has to do.
Yes, no choice.
No choice.
God, I really hope it's not a liter of milk.
Liter.
That's disgusting.
Dave says chug a bag of milk.
Both.
A bathtub full of milk. Everyone else up. Milk.
Well, what happens if they tie and it has to be a bag, half of milk and half of beer?
I'm in on that too. I think that's a
Me
good
too.
one.
All right, let's even it out on that chat there. So everyone do half and half.
Not everyone commented, but everyone's saying milk.
Shane said, "What is a liter?"
We got a liter.
All right, we gotta wrap this here.
So good. We got to wrap this up. We hit the hour 30 mark just about. Thanks, everybody, for staying on with us. Everyone who's new, welcome. We're going to do this every Ducks game. We kind of mix up the hosts. There's a few of us that do this, so you might see some faces throughout the season that aren't on every show, like Steven, who's not here, or Keith, who's not here. But, for those of you on Patreon, thanks for all the support as well. And we'll see you guys on Saturday with the Pucks and Brews. But furthermore, we'll have another fun Ducks game on Friday against the Colorado Avalanche. Have a good night, everybody.
I guess.